what are the essentials that we should be doing as women over the age of 40, women with a busy life? I don't have time, nor do I really have desire to cold plunge. And is it even good for my cortisol levels? Like, is the research even there for women? I won't go into that, but it's the idea that as a busy woman who has to make space and time for everybody, what do I prioritize and what do I put at the top?
Welcome to Functional Moms Podcast, lifestyle medicine for women over 40. Let's age on our own terms.
This episode is for you if you are looking to lose weight and feel energetic as a woman over 40. It's also for you if you're confused and overwhelmed by diet culture and want to simplify it once and for all.
We are thrilled to have Jessica Levy, otherwise known as Nomi, on the show. She is a double board certified nutritionist and health and wellness coach affiliated with Duke Integrative Medicine at Duke University. Her undergraduate and graduate research topics have included the psychology of long-term weight loss maintenance. As a married mom of 4 boys, Jessica knows what it means to try and do it all, or at least try.
It's so great to see you again, Jessica. We're very excited to hear all about your new program, Hello Health, and we're curious, how is it helping women ditch the dieting cycle?
I'm so happy to get to hang out with you guys and just talk like being a mom, being a woman, doing it all. Watching you guys expand and your podcast and your endeavors grow is really cool since we met. And I'm so excited to share with you some of the things that I'm doing and some of the information that I think can make women more energetic. Because at the end of the day, we want to be energetic. We want to feel good. We want to have energy to do what we love, not energy spent ruminating, thinking, trying to figure out our food. I want food to flow for every woman. So I have, for the last few years, I've been working with my private practice. And about 3 years ago, I started running these groups because I saw how much I benefited from group, just whether it was coaching or my group supervision for nutrition. I love learning in a group atmosphere. I love meeting people and talking about, meeting like-minded people. And one of the things that I realized my clients really could use is not just support from me, but support from people who were thinking along the same lines as them and the ability to connect with them over a period of time. So I started running these groups a few years ago, and finally over the last year, I've upgraded it, enhanced it, and put together a much more comprehensive program. It's my longest program to date. I used to run the groups for anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks to 3 weeks to a month. And this program is 6 weeks of behavior support. And I actually really am more excited to share my favorite thing is teaching. I want to share some ideas, information, and I want you guys to ask questions that you hear from people. So I would love to get that going. So in terms of the information, I think what I've seen as a practitioner, I always want to share the most relevant information. I think nowadays what happens is we're bombarded by information. There's so much of it, and a lot of people are confused. And when we get confused, we get overwhelmed. And when we get overwhelmed, we go back to our old habits that are comfortable and reliable, even if they're not healthy. So what I really try to do is make sure that women understand what are the essentials that we should be doing as women over the age of 40, women with a busy life. I don't have time, nor do I really have desire to cold plunge. And is it even good for my cortisol levels? Like, is the research even there for women? I won't go into that, but it's the idea that as a busy woman who has to make space and time for everybody, what do I prioritize and what do I put at the top? And at the top of that list, we use the word self-care, which is it can sound a little cheesy nowadays because we've used it so much. We know that women need to take care of themselves, but how do we actually make it doable? So one of the things that I tell all my clients, especially my female clients, because I see how much they prioritize other people, is that what women don't do for themselves in the morning does not get done.
Yeah, as the day goes away, you get caught up in it.
100%. And you know what? Even if we think, okay, ideally I'm going to work out at the end of the day. I'll put everybody, do dinner. When everybody's in that after dinner chill space doing homework, I'm going to run to the gym. There's always something there, whether it's parent teacher night or there's errands to run, or your kid all of a sudden says oh, I have a project
you're just
that's
exhausted
due on some topic and they need a lot of help. There's something that's going to pop up. That's
I'm
okay. I'm where's
I think
my
I'm
pajamas? It's bedtime. I personally won't even do dishes after dinner. I'm done. I would rather do dishes at 5 a.m. You're right. Evening time, maybe there's there's household chores, whatever it is, you just want to be done for the evening. So for me personally, I think I really promote getting up early and getting the things that you want out of the way, whether it's that walk or that workout. If it's really just focusing on, I'm going to start my day with a healthy meal because I don't know where the rest of my day is going to go, but at least I know that I'm a big fan of salad for breakfast. At least I know I got my salad in and I'm that much closer towards the amount of nutrients, the phytonutrients and fiber that I need for that day. I start the day strong. So I recommend that every woman really look at her schedule. And to make this doable, it's easy for me to be on the outside of someone's life and say, okay, make an awesome morning schedule. I recommend working on, if a woman would say, you know what, I don't really have a great schedule in the morning, I'm waking up and like hopping into everybody else's routine, I recommend starting with 20 minutes. Own the first 20 minutes of your day. Own that morning energy. Take time to get up, have a glass of water, have your coffee if that's part of your morning ritual. I like to journal in the morning when I have time, and then I go for my workout. But that's a big morning routine. If you want to start with just something small, just find a way to have 20 minutes to yourself in the morning before everybody else, before all the kids' demands are there. So that's my first thing is schedule yourself in from the beginning of the day, and it's going to set the theme for your energy, and it's going to set the tone for all of your choices that day.
That makes a lot of sense. I think so often I find myself getting caught up, like grabbing my phone first thing in the morning. Such a mistake.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important thing to highlight is the idea that, first of all, our digital worlds are expanding at an extremely quick rate, faster than we could have imagined, 20 years ago. I don't know about you. I remember where I was standing when I learned about text messaging, and I thought it was just like the coolest darn thing ever that we could send a text message. And now I have a plethora of information, video making capacity, podcasts, WhatsApp, conversations at my fingertip. And I have to manage that all day. But my brain doesn't really want that. And it certainly doesn't want to start the day with that. I really try to make sure that I start the day with journaling. I keep a journal next to my bed and I write, even if it's 3 sentences. At least I connected with myself and my own energy first. So that's one of my go-to in the morning. The next thing that I tell clients, and most of the people on my program, this is one of the first things that we work on implementing, is actually starting the day with a high protein meal, making sure that we're leaving our carbohydrates till later. Why is that? One of the things that I recommend to all my clients and to my workshop participants, and we start with this early, is to start the day with a high protein, good quality fat, high fiber meal. Leave your carbohydrates until later. Why is that? When we start the day with carbohydrates, more than protein and definitely more than fat, because fat doesn't spike insulin in very large amounts. It's minuscule. It's hardly measurable. What happens is when we start the day with carbohydrates is our pancreas right away starts secreting higher amounts of insulin. Insulin's a hormone. Hormones cross-talk. So it's kind of setting the tone for our day. When we get that hormone insulin high, hormones, the body likes homeostasis. It wants to keep that hormone up where it is. So what it's going to do is it's going to make sure that you have carb cravings all day long. So I recommend do not start with the oatmeal. Do not start with even the whole grain bread. Do high fat or high fiber, high protein, good quality fat for breakfast. This will mitigate cravings later in the day, and it'll help you to set the tone for your food choices throughout the day so that you're not craving carbohydrates the whole day. I have clients who just do this and find that it's an excellent way to influence all of their food choices for the day.
Works for me. I have like steak and eggs in the morning with a little salad. Yeah. And it just like sets the tone.
It
makes
that.
such a huge difference when I really focus on my protein intake and like first thing in the morning and throughout the day. I used to get such crazy, insane cravings at night, at a certain point in the day, I have to be ready because I know it's coming and I'm like, oh, am I going to go down? But since I focus on my protein intake, and for me personally, it does work to minimize my carbs. That's me personally. It really helps. And even like having whole fat Greek yogurt with like maybe a couple of blueberries and 2 scoops of protein, and I get that sweet thing going a little bit, but overall I still am able to maintain minimizing those cravings later on in my day.
Yeah, and I have to chime in too that I've been working on this as well, and I think that is huge, that you get much less cravings, and that's wonderful. But one struggle I'm having is getting the fiber in. So could you share tips? Because I find when you really focus on that protein, it can be the fiber starts to kind of go out a little bit.
100%. So that's a great question, because I think that a lot of times there's good whole grain carbohydrate sources of fiber. And so when we're focusing on the protein and we're kind of trying to stay lower on the carb side, and by the way, fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates, and ideally you're getting half a plate of some sort of colorful fruits and vegetables at each meal. So we are getting carbohydrates throughout the day. Those carbohydrates are essential for nourishing and feeding the microbiome and for helping the cells that keep our epithelial tissue inside of our gut healthy, having regular turnover. So we are getting carbohydrates throughout the day, but it's really the quality of carbohydrates that we're choosing. When it comes to fiber, the highest fiber fruits are berries. Go for blackberries and raspberries. You're also going to be making sure that you're getting half of that plate in non-starchy vegetables, and that's going to give you a good dose of fiber. Even though most vegetables are not considered high fiber in and of themselves, because high fiber foods are things that have more than 5 grams of fiber per serving, when you have a plate of colorful vegetables, that's a high fiber meal when you combine everything that's on that plate. I would also, and I do this, I always have ground flaxseed in my fridge that I'm sprinkling liberally, and I also have ground chia seed. Why ground chia versus whole chia? Because inside ground chia, that you can only access when it's ground, not when it's whole, is a very good source of prebiotic fibers that are great for the gut. So I've got flaxseed chia mix that I just sprinkle inside my salads and my yogurt. That's an easy throw in. Like, add in 2 tablespoons of those a day. Make sure you're getting adequate fruits and veggies with each meal, and choose smart carbohydrates. So you can have some whole grains, but I would save them for later. So we've got a high protein breakfast that's going to modulate the way that we kind of interpret cravings all day long, hopefully get rid of those cravings. Obviously, we want to be well hydrated, because sometimes a little bit of dehydration can actually just be, it can come as a craving. When clients tell me I wake up starving, I'm like, no, you're thirsty. Okay. Assuming that there's like no gestational or type 2 diabetes. When a client tells me like I eat a healthy lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then the next morning I wake up starving, I'm like, you're probably just thirsty. So let's just check in and first hydrate. I always say keep a bottle of water next to your bed so that you can just start the day hydrating without having to think about it. So the other thing that I recommend, I made note, it's the, end of the day and my brain is like all over here. I'm going to say this, and I only realized this tip like in the last 2 days. So full disclosure, I'm like put together now, but for the last 3 days, I've been a puddle in my pajamas in my bed because I caught some sort of virus. And I was lucky enough that I could rearrange my schedule and just commit to Netflix for 3 days. And my husband's out of town. So I was like, this feels like vacation. And my kids are older now. I've got 2 teenage boys, and then I have a 13-year-old and 10 years old. So my schedule, it wasn't like I was dealing with little babies. Like if this would have happened like 15, 16 years ago, I would have been a mess. Like I wouldn't have been able to recover and like show up again, But I realized one of the things that I did was I was watching Netflix, which I watched more Netflix in the last 3 days than I've watched in the last 3 years, because I never watched videos. It's just, I don't have time for it. And what happened, even though I wasn't well, I laid in bed all day and I went to bed like an hour later each night because I was like in the middle of whatever series I was in the middle of. So I'm going to say this, watching Netflix at night will hijack your best morning. We have to get off of our screens as at night moms, whether it's Netflix or Instagram scrolling, we got to get off
it's
of our
so
screens
hard.
if we want to own our morning. So that's just, it is so hard. Can I tell you what I have in my kitchen? It's a K box. You know the K box or the K safe? It's a plastic box. I put my phone in it, and then you like put a timer on it. You don't see it for 8 hours. So I can't realistically do that. My older teenage boys live in another city, and I always want them to be able to contact me, and they somehow forget that we have a house phone because they live in a generation where everybody has a cell phone. But I will put my phone on do not disturb and just have those few numbers. And I will put my phone in a different room where I can hear it, but like have an alarm, put an alarm to like put away your phone every single night, reoccurring alarm. It will change your morning. It's a little thing. It's a difficult thing because we've been kind of programmed to like love our little dopamines all day long with all of our.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I got to get on that kind of stuff.
I think also what helps me with that is I have a book that I read at night, and it's like my nighttime read. I specifically read that book. It's on my nightstand table, and that is, I think if you create like a ritual, you take a bad habit out and you have to infuse in a good habit immediately, and that is helpful. And now it took a minute, but I do actually look forward to that nighttime read. It's like my and it's really wonderful.
I think it's a great thing. I love reading before bed, and they always say like fiction before bed because our brain wants something simple and it just wants to relax. And you want that response that you have that like, okay, I'm here, I've arrived. I would also say like accessorize bedtime. I'm a big fan of like cute pajamas, anything to make bedtime like something we look forward to and just make that nighttime routine so that we can have that morning, that awesome morning. 100%. And also like, using the word restorative, like sleep is actually continuation of our waking period. It's how our brain consolidates and stores memories so that we can use it in the next waking period and in the rest of our lives. We need good restorative sleep.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about like how sleep plays into the weight loss thing? Because I know I hear things like if you don't sleep well, much harder to lose weight. Like, how does it all play together?
That's a great question. When my clients come to me and they're like, I want a meal plan, I'm like, well, first we're going to talk about what time do you go to sleep? Because first of all, a few notes about sleep. Aside from the fact that sleep is really, it's what controls your hormones. Your circadian rhythm is what dictates your hormones. And so if you are not sleeping in line with your circadian rhythm, you're not going to have the kind of hormonal regulation that you need to optimize your weight loss or to optimize your health. One of the things that I see with people is that they're much more willing to control or restrict their diet. Like I'm gluten-free, I'm sugar-free, I'm dairy-free, but they're not willing always to add in the things that are actually going to be much more beneficial and are also anti-inflammatory and are also really positive for them, like more sleep or more exercise. So I really emphasize with all of the programs that I do and all of my private clients, we're going to work on what we're adding in, not on what we're taking out, because we don't have to focus on what we're taking out. It'll just fall to the wayside.
Yes, if you overcrowd. I just was listening to this guy who's amazing, and he was talking about overcrowding. He's like, I don't focus on, what I'm not doing. He's like, I just put in more of what I want, and then it overcrowds those things and they just fall to the wayside, like you said.
Yeah, I think we're such a good like group of multitaskers, us women. And I know like we don't always want to add extra stuff in, but I think that when we crowd in with the good things, then the stuff that we really don't want to have in our lives kind of falls to the side. I don't want to scroll as much. So I started taking piano lessons, which I have zero time for, by the way. And my piano teacher expects me to practice. So like every time I think I'm going to go pick up I'm so scared of this man. Like, I mean, he's really nice, but English isn't his first language. So like he doesn't get swearing. So he uses it like slang when it's really like more, it has like a lot more. I'm like, what did you just say? Okay, I'm going to practice more because he's really a great teacher. But I had to like learn that I don't have time to pick up my phone because if I don't practice, like I'm going to hear about it at my lesson. He can tell. So I think it's like that overcrowding and adding in things that you want in your life, because so many times we just kind of have habits that like just kind of pop in, but not what we directly want. So I want to throw
What would you say is the biggest challenge for women over 40 when it comes to losing weight?
Okay, so the most common thing that I see with women, there's two things. I see women who have been in a chronic dieting cycle their entire life, and now what they've been doing back and forth through their 20s and 30s is no longer working. And they're like, what's going on? The other thing I see is women who have been kind of consistently healthy or happy with their weight or at a weight that they were comfortable with, and all of a sudden their body is drastically changing. And they're like, what's happening? The first nutritional recommendation that I make for women, and I think that this is just like a really easy kind of hack, get rid of all flour-based items as much as you can. We're not going to take them out 100%, but replace them with unprocessed things. That means even rice flour, chickpea flour, lentil flour, and wheat flour, and spelt flour, and all the healthy flours. Set those aside. Go for whole food, whole grains that are unprocessed. You're going to fill you up more. They're going to spike your glycemic index more, spike your glucose levels less is what I meant to say. And you're going to feel more satiated from them than you will from the flour-based items. So take those out. Just with that, it also takes out a lot of the processed food, because if we think about processed foods or shelf-stable carbohydrates that we reach for when we are hungry, it's usually things that have a lot of other preservatives and things that we don't want in them. So once we kind of say like, oh, I'm going to really focus on adding in the whole grains and the legumes and taking out the processed flour items, we feel a lot different. So that's the number one nutrition recommendation I can make. The other thing I see is that women don't get, and I think that the conversation around menopause now, and this is thanks to social media, but women don't get support, awareness, or understanding in their perimenopause years. When I meet a 49-year-old woman who tells me like her body's changing, she's having a hard time losing weight, she's been to her doctor, or I have a client recently that was just put on an antidepressant or suggested to put on an antidepressant, and she came to me because she's like, I don't think I'm depressed, like I'm not a depressed person, but here's my symptoms. And the fact that at 53 years old, her doctor did not discuss the hormonal changes that's going on with her, to me is like medically negligent. Like how much of percentage of the population goes through menopause? Like 50%. It doesn't make, how could a doctor not at least say to her and just get her curious about it, even if he can't provide the information, or he or she, whoever the doctor was? And how could could they prescribe an antidepressant to somebody who's never had a history of depression? She didn't have like a sudden onset or a certain event in her life. She's just sort of noticed she's not herself. And this was the first response. So make sure that you are in conversation around menopause and understanding that, yeah, from the age of 40, like it's happening, it's starting, it's small, it's shifting, and we can be empowered around it. The other thing that I would say,
go.
Lifestyle change,
Yay.
Start lifting. Lift heavy stuff. I hate lifting heavy things. You can throw me in the desert. I've done this overnight and I'll run 50 kilometers and I'll be very happy. But like, tell me to do some squats with a kettlebell and I'll try to talk my trainer out of it. I'm always like, I was like, the best part of being sick this week is I got to cancel on my strength trainer. That's how I feel because I hate it. But guess what? I force myself to do it. And I set aside in my budget money to get a trainer who will come to my house because, I know that if I have to make any more effort, then eventually I'll make excuses and then eventually I'll just quit and I'll just be like scrawny and I won't have any ability to metabolize glucose because I'll lose all my muscle mass. So as women over the age of 40, ideally before 40, if there's any younger women lifting out there, but any age is great. Start lifting heavy things. Start small. You can do 5 or 7 or 10 minutes of weights. It's better than none. And you can start at any age. One of the things that we want to remember is that type 2 diabetes is not a disease of young people, but it has become a disease of young people. It used to be called geriatric diabetes because it was something that afflicted older people as they lost muscle mass. Lean muscle mass is the biggest user of glucose. We don't want to get type 2 diabetes. We live in a world where the microbiome changes can contribute to type 2 diabetes. The processed food, preservatives, and all the junk and hidden sugar can contribute to type 2 diabetes. We have to fight against that. And we can do that by making sure that we're lifting heavy and maintaining and building lean muscle mass and eating steak and eggs like Raquel for breakfast.
I want you to know that I also have a salad with that. Yeah, I have steak and egg and like a little salad.
Awesome. We need those. Exactly.
Well, that is really amazing. So basically, I'm going to say that a lot of those tidbits that you gave us, would you say that that's how we would be staying off? This is like part of the program of staying off that dieting cycle forever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just like eating smart. I feel like dieting is something that was invented prior to nutritional biochemistry. Nutritional biochemistry is it's a younger part of the sciences. And dieting is like, women have been told to diet for like centuries, depending on what was in vogue and in fashion. But I want women to just know how to eat according to where their body is hormonally, the age and stage. And I also want to remind women like there's 2 aspects to long-term health. There's number 1, recognizing that willpower is not a skill. It's a renewable resource. You're going to have, if you start your morning strong when your willpower is high and you set the theme for your day, even if you get to the end of the day and you're like, you don't eat the perfect dinner, you had, a 75% great day. And we have to think about what are we doing the majority of our time. So use your smart thinking and your energy and your motivation that's more abundant in the morning to set the tone for your day. And it will influence, if you keep practicing, it'll influence throughout your day. The other thing that I want to say is people will come to me and say, give me a meal plan. Tell me exactly what to eat. I was like, really? Is it 1995? I don't think we do that anymore. Unless you've got a medical nutrition condition, like a medical nutrition therapy that we need to implement because you've got a specific like renal condition or, there's definitely medical conditions in which we have specific dietary plans for. However, for the average healthy person, I want my people to flow with food and just be able to sit down and make the best decision. And that doesn't mean eating according to a strict plan and then, oh no, we're out of this food. So I throw the whole plan away and I go for the cookies in the cupboard or the cereal or whatever it is. It means in order to be persistent, we have to be flexible and creative and well-informed. So if I know that ideally when I sit down at my meal, I'm aiming for a protein, I'm aiming for unprocessed carbs, and I'm aiming for a salad, well, what happens when like after the soccer game, my kids want to go to the pizza shop and they don't have anything but pizza? And what do? Okay, so maybe I'll say load up my piece of pizza with a ton of veggies because I can still make upgraded choices that are in line and a reflection of my values. And I'm going to feel good about that, even if it wasn't the perfect choice.
Yes.
So I'm always going to recommend like be flexible, be creative, and think about how can I upgrade what's going on in front of me this second. Theoretically, we know what the perfect food is, theoretically, but practically in the moment, what is the action we're taking with the tools in front of us?
I love that you're making it a lifestyle. It's not just a plan because the plans, even if they tell me what to eat exactly, eventually real life's going to kick in and I'm not going to be able to stick to the plan. So I need tips like that are going to work on the everyday. And so I think your approach is awesome. I love this.
Yeah, I was just talking about pizza like literally literally 2 nights ago, my sons wanted to go to the pizzeria and I'm like, oh gosh. But I went with them and they got margarita pizzas, which I love margarita pizzas. And I got a side order of meatballs. And so I got 2 meatballs and I ate those meatballs and I took a bite of my son's margarita pizza. So that was my hack for myself there.
And you started with the protein, which is also just like a way to satiate, right? Protein means satiety. So when we go in and we see that yummy pizza and we're like, okay, I want to eat the whole pizza, which we don't really want to because we know how we're going to feel later. And then we have something that satiates us. That helps us to make more conscious decisions that we can still enjoy.
Pizza, and I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you for that bite, for the boys sharing their pizza with me so I didn't have to eat a whole slice. So it's good. It's like balance, you know? It's like, it's all good.
So Jessica, being mindful of our time today, you've given us so many amazing tips, but we were wondering if you had just 2 simple things I guess we could start with today if we're trying to maintain or lose our weight after 40.
Okay, 100% start with the high protein breakfast. Save your carbohydrates till later. You could even, some people save them and they put a little bit of a healthy carb in lunch or even have it towards dinner. Carbohydrates at dinner actually help us to make a little bit of serotonin, which is going to help us sleep. So it's also biochemistry wise, a smart way to just balance out your day. Keep your protein, high fiber, healthy fat breakfast. Okay. The other tip that I would say is be a food snob. That's like my favorite tip. I tell my clients this all the time. You don't have to eat perfect. We don't have to be like 100%, right? Perfection is inflammatory because of the amount of stress associated with like the rumination, but we have to make good choices and we want to make good choices to control our weight or to be feeling like ourselves in our body. So be a food snob. Choose foods like, I once had a client who told me that she finished her kids' cereal bowls after they went to school. I was like, do you love soggy cereal? Because if you love soggy cereal, like go for it, enjoy it. But if you were really a full food snob, it would be like, maybe I would have like a very small little something that I wanted and that I enjoyed that was a treat and not just sort of reactively take whatever's around. So eat good quality food, eat whole food, and start that day high protein.
Awesome. Jessica is offering a discount code for our listeners. Get $300 off any of her monthly programs. Thank you so much, Jessica. Use the code FMMOMS, that's FMMOMS, and you will get that discount. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, yes. I just want to say where they can find you. Connect with Jessica on Instagram at Nomi Knows Nutrition or by email at nomi@nomiknows.com. We will put links to these in the show notes. And is there any other way they should reach out to you?
Questions in the DMs, you can totally do that. Email, through my website. I'd love to hear what people's goals are and just like get people motivated. It's all about good energy, not about being obsessed with like food. It's about just like having all of the energy so that you can do whatever you want to do and spend your days enjoying.
Great. This is very helpful. A lot of great tips today.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you.
The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, curing, treating, or preventing any disease. We are functional medicine certified health coaches and not licensed medical professionals. The opinions and advice of guests are their own and also not considered to be medical advice. Always consult with a healthcare professional when making any healthy lifestyle changes. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment or review. Email us at info@functionalmoms.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button.